Hi everyone, welcome to Manager IQ's Manager Skills Corner podcast. Manager IQ's mission is to provide an online space where managers can access all the resources, learnings and tools to build their manager toolkit, and also to provide you with a community of managers to lean on. This podcast is designed to bring experts in specific areas of management to share their knowledge and experience with the Manager IQ community. We share tips and tricks which you can implement into your management practice. For more information about Manager IQ and our products, check out our website www.manageriq.com. Now, let's check out today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Manager Skills Corner. So great to be back here with you. And today we are excited to have Michelle Keenan from Michelle Keenan Wellness. We're here to discuss the very important topic of workplace well-being. Michelle is a workplace well-being strategist and is helping business owners look after their most valuable assets, which is themselves and their people. Michelle's had over 30 years experience in the health industry and has helped over 1,000 people with their health and well-being. That is just an amazing, thinking of all the impact that you've had out there, Michelle. It's so excited to have you here. But you help your clients in multiple ways. Your services include one-on-one well-being coaching, online yoga and Pilates classes, and you also work with small to medium-sized businesses to create and implement their well-being strategies. So welcome here today, Michelle. How are you?
I'm really well, and thank you for having me.
Not a problem at all. I'm so excited for this topic, but I thought it'd be quite good to start off, to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what, has brought you to being a well-being expert.
Sure. So the short version is really that ever since I left school, and in fact, even before that, I have been interested in health and well-being and activity and looking after ourselves. So one of my first jobs out of school was in a gym, and it sort of has all progressed from there over the years. So how I've ended up in the workplace well-being place specifically is that when I was full-time teaching yoga, Pilates, mindfulness, and had a studio, I also had been asked by a couple of different people I knew or people who knew people to come and do some mindfulness, some yoga, things like that for their staff. And that was kind of where that seed was planted. And one of the things I noticed about going in and doing a lunchtime class for the staff was kind of number one in the back of my mind was, it's lunchtime and people have to give up their lunchtime. So while it's nice that the business is offering this, it's kind of, you can see why not everybody's going to be interested. But secondly, the people who were showing up were also people who would probably go out and seek out things like yoga themselves. So you might have 100 staff, but you might get 6 of the probably women from the office coming to do the yoga, or 10 or 12 women from the office. You wouldn't get anybody from the factory. You didn't have many guys, or if any, coming. So in terms of workplace well-being, I could kind of see the limitations of doing it that way, although the people who did it sort of loved it and really felt it was helpful. So that was a little seed in the back of my mind. And then after COVID and everything else, the changes that sort of happened in the world over that period of time, I just felt like it was time for a shift, and I felt like I could really see a need and that I could do some good in the workplace wellbeing space in a broader sense than just going in and doing some lunchtime yoga for staff, being a little bit more strategic, a little bit more holistic, a little bit more inclusive in the way that businesses are looking at their wellbeing offerings and what that looks like in their business and how they can maximize it, I guess, maximize the uptake and maximize the value and maximize the return, by creating something, by being strategic about it rather than just ticking a box by doing ad hoc things here and there.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not too sure if you felt the same, but in my LinkedIn feeds, there's all these things more recently around, well-being is not just about, I think there was one with a whole bunch of pizza boxes this week, and it's not just about, hey, build resilience by giving people pizza, it's about actually, strategically looking at, well, what are your well-being practices? How are your roles set up? What is the workloads of your people? And so, like you're saying, being that more strategic around workplace well-being rather than just having band-aids is a much better way of looking at it for organizations and for the individuals in them.
It is. And what you just said there, what's good for the individuals is good for the business, right? Mm-hmm. Because if you've got happy, healthy people who are feeling supported, who are feeling understood, who are feeling appreciated, and not just like they're replaceable and nobody gives a crap about them really, mm-hmm. aren't those the people you want working in your business?
Yeah.
Does that not make sense that those people are going to be more enthusiastic? They're going to enjoy their job more. So they're going to be more creative. They're going to be better problem solvers. They're going to be better communicators with other people on their team and with your clients. So yeah, that strategy comes into it. Where, the box ticking, whether it's something that actually does maybe make a difference to individuals, like say the yoga classes or the mindfulness, which is all well and good, but certainly a bowl of free fruit in the lunchroom and a lunchtime yoga class once a week is not really a wellbeing strategy. It's not really a wellbeing program for your business. It is a box ticking exercise. And if you've got free fruit in the lunchroom and a lunchtime yoga class, but your people are working 60-hour weeks, there's a disconnect there when you start talking about, we're doing something for workplace wellbeing,
Yeah. And I guess for our listeners, do we want to maybe start off with a little bit of a definition of, what do we mean by workplace wellbeing, and that can set the scene for the rest of the conversation?
Sure. So wellbeing, the quote that I like, or the definition that I like, is from the Mental Health Foundation of New Zealand, and it's sort of short and to the point, and I feel like it really sums it up. And I'm going to read it so I don't get it wrong. Wellbeing means we have the tools, support, and environments that we need to be who we are and to build and sustain lives worth living. And I really love that definition, because I think what some of those wellbeing initiatives that we were just saying, like lunchtime yoga, for example, that's not addressing the environment. You're giving people some tools, but what about support? What about great leadership? What about the environment? What about the workplace culture? So if we look at wellbeing in the context of the workplace, I look at 4 key areas which I think are really important, which is policy. How can you perhaps be a leader rather than a follower, instead of just doing the bare minimum for things like whether it's parental leave, whether it's sick leave, whatever. Where are your policies? How do they stack up? Even things like how much you pay people, right? Because financial well-being or financial stress is a huge contributor to people's lack of well-being or stress levels. So what about your policies? What is your culture? And again, culture is not, a coffee machine. Culture is not beers after work on a Friday. A culture is going to arise in your business whether you're intentional about it or not. So be intentional about what kind of culture you want to create in your business. So policies, culture, leadership. Obviously, the importance of good managers, right? You've built your whole business around it. So, and just before we started recording, we were talking about how everybody usually has that one manager in their past that they really think really fondly of, and that had a really big influence on them. And so how can you support the leaders in your business? What sort of training, support, coaching are they getting to build their leadership skills? Because sometimes people end up in a leadership position. Maybe they got promoted from being at that level. Now they're the leader of that team because they were good at doing the thing. But leadership skills are a whole set of different skills, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you can know how to do maths, but teaching maths is different than doing the maths and knowing how to do it yourself. It's the same with everything. Being good at a role doesn't mean that you're equipped to lead a team of people doing that role. So looking at your leadership, looking at how you support them, how you grow your leaders, and then opportunities. So that's where perhaps that training comes in for people in your business as individuals. Are we looking at those tools like, let's do some resilience. Let's talk to them about stress management, but also opportunities within the business. What are their goals in their career, and how are you supporting them and coaching them and training them and allowing them the opportunity to grow whether it's industry specific or whether it's those more soft skills and that general personal growth. So those are those 4 key areas: policy, leadership, culture, and opportunities within that workplace that contribute to workplace wellbeing, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, I love all that. I definitely love that definition. And I think that I might have to write it down on a post-it note and put it, on the side of my desk, because I think it's certainly a different thought. Like you say, it's not just about, physical health. It's not just about eating well, which is some of the things that we do tend to have a look at, having good mindfulness techniques, but it's about, the tools, the support, the environment. And I think, from a management perspective, if we're thinking about our people and saying, are they enabled in the sense, do they have the right tools? Do they feel supported? Are they in a safe environment, be it physically or mentally, whatever it might be? You're making a good step forward of creating an environment that is actually safe and people feel well. And then having it supported holistically, like you say, by your 4 steps, sounds like a great place, to work. Sign me up. I'll be there.
Yeah. And I think, again, we touched on this before we started recording, Alexis, but I think the tide is turning. I think more businesses are seeing the value, but seeing their responsibility rather than, that old school way of going, you leave your problems at the door. When you're at work, you're there to work, and nobody cares about your personal life. And the reality is we're all emotional beings. We experience emotions all day, and it's unreasonable and just unrealistic to expect someone, if someone just had to have their 20-year-old cat put down the night before, or if someone just found out that their dad has dementia, or if someone just had a big argument with their partner right before they walked out the door, or whatever, there's no off switch for that kind of thing. And so people might come into work on different days feeling up, down, in between. They might experience a range of stuff during the day. And I'm not saying that we need to, we're all adults. We all can manage our behaviours. So I'm not saying we all need to come into work or should be expected, businesses shouldn't be expected that people can come in and be a total prima donna all day. But there's a middle ground there, right? What if you're a manager and one of your team comes in to work and you can see, or if they rang you and took the day off because of personal stuff and then they come in the next day, actually checking in with them and saying, hey, how are you today? Are you okay to be back at work? Is there anything you wanted to talk about? Obviously, you don't have to share with me, but if you want to, I'm here. And, if you need more support around whatever's going on, that's part of my role is to support you, so just know that you can talk to me about it if you want to. And I think if we encourage more of that, and again equip our managers for that real leadership, that is going to benefit everybody. If that person who is experiencing something going on in their life comes in and is met with that, rather than just kind of expected to be 100% on, nobody actually gives a crap why you took a personal day yesterday, nobody's commenting, or they're all studiously ignoring the fact that your eyes are red because you've been crying. I think I started with, we all have emotions. There's no getting around it. And if we can work with it rather than trying to ignore it, that's where that real culture change is going to happen. And again, people who are supported, who feel appreciated, who actually feel that people care, they're actually going to be the people you want working in your business. You're going to get a team of people who get on with each other, who understand each other, who work together better, who understand each other's kind of strengths and weaknesses, because we all have both, right? We're all sort of, better in certain situations than in others. And yeah, I just think that the businesses that are recognizing that are the ones that are getting ahead, the ones that are not just waiting to be told that they have to do some of this stuff. And the other ones are the ones that are having a revolving door of staff, and they're wondering why nobody wants to work there, and you can, that sort of cliche of, older people going, oh, nobody wants to work anymore. It's like, no, people just aren't prepared to put up with being treated like shit, to be honest. And they don't have to, because there are workplaces that are recognizing that caring for their people is not only the right thing to do, but it's actually good for business.
We're excited to announce that Manager IQ has now created a new manager community called the Manager Mentor Hub. This is a place where managers can come to master their craft, get access to a supportive community, and share their knowledge and experience. When you join this community, you will have the ability to undertake a management self-review, set your goals, get access to monthly masterclasses where the topics are based off the community goals, requests, and other general community chatter. There is a weekly live office hours to ask and workshop any of your management questions that you might have. And of course, there's also the community itself where you can ask each other questions and get support from each other. So why don't you come along and check us out? More information can be seen at www.manageriq.com. See you there. Yeah, and I mean, that's great. I mean, that was our next question that we're going to ask, is around what are the benefits of, making sure that workplace well-being is important in your organization. And, you've mentioned retention of, good, motivated, engaged employees is a big part of that. Attracting employees, because, noise is going to get out there in the market is another part of that. Is there anything else that you would add around why workplace well-being is good for businesses and good for individuals?
Yeah, and I think we've sort of really covered it, right? Yeah, just for individuals, it's something they're going to be looking for, because we spend usually more than 40 hours when you factor in the, getting there and staying late, and some, you're there at lunchtime and whatever. We spend such a large portion of our lives at work. If it's getting you down, that has such a huge impact. And again, well-being, as we've just said, is more to the fore. It's more talked about. Mental health is so much more a topic that's on the table. People are really recognizing as individuals the impact that can have, for better or worse, their workplace. And they're just seeing that it's not worth staying, even if the pay's good, even if the perks are good, if it is making you feel like crap. If you're getting to the end, even if you're actually enjoying sometimes being there, but if it's having an impact like you're unable to switch off, if it's having an impact like you're sort of feeling overwhelmed, even though you enjoy the work itself, there are those things that start to happen for people. Or sometimes they don't even start to happen later. I have a friend who, a previous client actually, and she recently started a new contract role, and she got there on her first day. They pushed out her start date because they weren't organised. And I know you just did an onboarding episode with Sandra, so she'll be cringing when she hears this. They pushed out her start date. When she got there, they still didn't have an email address set up. Her computer wasn't set up. Nobody knew kind of what she was doing. The HR person hadn't done anything. The IT guy hadn't done anything. And then to top it off, she's a little bit older than a lot of the workforce there. And they were sort of really unwelcoming. There was a bit of kind of mean girl type stuff going on. And I think she was there about 4 or 5 weeks. And she was like, I'm not staying here. By week 4 or 5, the stuff still wasn't organised. She was just kind of sitting there, literally basically twiddling her thumbs. And people are just like, the paycheck's not worth it. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this environment. This is not what I want to be doing with my life. People want purpose and meaning. It's actually really important to our mental health to feel that we have purpose. And so when you're in a workplace where you lack that, that's also a factor, So yeah, there are so many reasons why it's important. And then, like I said, from the flip side with businesses, who do you want dealing with your customers? Who do you want doing the creative work, coming up with the ideas, making the things, or providing the service or the product that you create? Who do you what do you want those people to be feeling like? And like I said, the old school way might be like, well, I don't care what they're feeling like, I just want them to do their job. But recognize that what they're feeling like is going to impact how they do their job. So
yes.
Your business and your bottom line.
Yeah. Always, like sometimes when we have dinner, I'm staying with my folks at the moment, and, if there's a good meal, we say, oh, that was made with love,
Yes.
Yeah, and a similar type of thing, like if you had a good experience with an organization, and actually the way that a person feels when they're interacting with a customer is going to bleed through the conversation and how they make that customer feel and the services that they provide. So I think that's exactly what you're saying, is that you want your customers to feel the love that employees have for their organization. Love might be a dramatic word, but like that sense of feeling excited about what they're doing, that they are contributing to a broader purpose, that they are enjoying what they're doing, that they enjoy their co-workers, that they're not tired because they're overworked, or they have opportunities where they can be creative and innovative and those sorts of things. That's going to go through to your customers. It's going to impact the bottom line. And you also want your customers to return. So
yeah, and you touching on saying you want the customer to feel the love that the employee feels, because this circles right back around to everybody feels emotions all the time. So what kind of emotion do you want your customer to be feeling? And how are they going to be treated? How is the customer going to be treated to feel like a valued customer and to have the experience that you want the customer to have? Who's providing that experience? And yes, what they're feeling is going to bleed over into their interaction with your clients. So yeah 100%.
And it's got to have a good, direct link to productivity. So if a person is coming in worried about what's going to happen to them that day, or if they're going to have enough work on that day, or whatever the different aspects of work are that are maybe a little bit unwell, they're not going to be focusing that energy on doing a good job, having great interactions, creating a good culture. They're going to be doing a whole bunch of other things and putting their energy in a different place where the business probably doesn't want them to.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. We talked about people's outside stuff or personal stuff impacting how they feel at work, but obviously then the experience they're having at work, right? If they have niggles with a co-worker and that's not being addressed, and I think you've already done an episode on psychological safety, a whole episode. So if you've got an environment where psychological safety is not present, so people don't feel comfortable to say, I made a mistake, or people don't feel comfortable to speak up and say to someone else, particularly someone who ranks above them, actually, I think you're wrong. If there's not that safety to have those conversations, that's going to impact, if someone's sitting in a state of stress all the time, that's a physiological response, right? And again, I touched on it earlier. The parts of the brain that are good at being creative, solving problems, making decisions, those shut down when we're stressed.
Yeah, wow.
So again, what's their performance? And as you said, productivity is sort of a byproduct of kind of general performance, and their general onness is going to be impacted. So yeah, productivity as a measure of that, but all of the things that feed into productivity as the end result, the problem solving, the creativity, the communication, the being able to actually articulate themselves and have those conversations. And psychological safety is such a huge part of that. And so again, has such an impact on how people are going to perform their roles,
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing in the episodes that we've already recorded as part of Manager Skills Corner. Appreciate the plugs for the other episodes.
Well, I love that you have really looked into some really key areas, and that's why I so appreciate you inviting me on, because I can see the work you've already done, and I think you and I have talked about that. I think we think quite alike, and I think I think the direction and the thoughtfulness that you have put into what makes a good manager, I think you're doing a really great job in the direction you're going in with the podcast.
I've got my cheer squad in the background,
Oh.
agreeing with you. Well, thank you so much. I agree. I think that we do have a lot in common, and I guess all we're trying to do is make an impact on the world in a positive way, in our way, in any way that we can. So that's what we're trying to achieve. But let's consider if a manager is sitting listening to this podcast and they're thinking, how do I assess how well my workplace is, or what is the workplace well-being in my team? How would they go about assessing that?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. So, you know, an example I gave earlier, obviously, just as a manager, the better you actually kind of know your people and seeing when something's changed with someone. You know, if someone who's normally quite outgoing and chatty has gone a bit quiet, if someone, I was going to say suddenly, maybe not quite suddenly exactly, but if someone is starting to have more days off, you know, when someone is starting to get disengaged, often they start kind of using up their sick days or taking more days off because they just are waking up in the morning and going, I just can't face it today. I don't want to be there. Obviously, they might also be taking sick days because there's something physically happening with them. So, you know, again, just having those conversations, and I think creating that environment of psychological safety and being also, I think, vulnerable to share yourself and not feeling that you have to, you know, that a manager has to be sort of know everything, never show weakness. You know, again, we're all human. And I think the more we have those conversations, the more that you actually get to know your people. And that doesn't mean you're not being professional, and that doesn't mean that you can't have the hard conversations when needed about their work performance, for example. But I think, you know, starting to create that environment of having regular check-ins with your team. And again, if we, you know, bring that back around to sort of policy and culture, make it an actual documented thing. Once a week, we all have our check-in as a group. Once a week or once a fortnight or once a month, I have a one-on-one with each team member, and it's not just talking about their performance. It's, is there anything else? Is there anything going on with you? Is there anything you need to unload or that I can support you with? So again, creating that environment, I think, in the first instance, is going to enable you to see when something changes, which is going to be a sign of what's going on with your people. But there, you know, and there are also kind of tools that you can use. And, you know, I've said more than once, I'd love to not have to have a job, because businesses embed well-being in their day-to-day operations. So managers can learn to be better facilitators. Managers can learn to use, you know, there are some great tools out there that sort of gamify the process of having conversations, and using those types of tools and games and, you know, things that actually enable people to sort of get to know each other better, to be a bit more vulnerable, to find out what makes each other tick. And as a manager, supporting people then in the way they want to be supported. You know, we talked before we started recording a little bit about psychometric profiling, and, you know, some people love all the details and all the instructions and they want to make sure they're following it to the letter. Other people just want to be told the thing and then they want to go and get on with it with minimal interference from anybody else. And so learning to manage your people in a way that's right for them and getting to know them on that deeper level, again, means that you will have a much quicker insight into when things are going on for them, you know, and they'll be much more likely to confide in you and to not just be like, oh God, well, I don't want to tell anyone because, you know, then they're going to, you know, I don't want to tell anyone that I'm struggling and maybe I'm starting to feel burnt out. I don't want to tell them that I'm having relationship problems because it's not work related and they probably don't care. But if you know, you don't have to, it's not that they have to unload everything onto you, but just look, I'm having some stuff going on in my personal life and yeah, I'm feeling a little bit not quite myself. I just feel a little bit scattered, you know, and then the manager can, like I said, they can say, is there anything I can do to support you? maybe the company has some work from home type policy. Would it help to work from home for a few days and just not have to be in the office and around anyone? Do you think that would be better for you? Would that work better? Or whatever, that was just an example. There's any number of ways you could support someone, but having that relationship is actually what's going to enable you as a manager to observe and discern those changes in people's behaviour that are perhaps going to signal that all is not necessarily well sometimes.
Yeah, exactly right. So if you're looking at the people within your team and you're thinking, okay, well, on a general sense, how well is this individual, this team member? What you're saying there are some triggers that might help you understand when there is something that's changed. But in order to understand the triggers, you have to understand your people. And so getting to know your people is a good foundation to then how you're able to assess and then support them in the way that they want to be supported, because you understand them, you've built trust, and you're able to support them in the right way. So that's a great foundation, and it's a foundation to lots of things, getting to know your people. So that's fantastic. You're able to do that. Then you're able to understand, okay, well, maybe they're a bit quieter today, or they seem a bit distracted, or they look disheveled, whatever it might be. There's something going on for them. So then you are able to then lead into a conversation that's going to help. So I like that, part of the support when you talk about the definition, the tools, the support, and the environment. Okay, so that's a key part of support. So then what are the things within the environment that are going to help those individuals? And then, like you say, what are the policies that you can lean in on? And what are the work from home things, like those sorts of things? Or is it tools? So is it training? Is it EAP, whatever it might be? That's why I like the definition so much, because you can actually go back to it and think, okay, well, these are the 3 areas that I can work on. What are the ones that are going to help this individual at this point in time? Or more broadly, how is it going to help the team?
Yes. And I think the other part about getting to know your people and building trust, which is the word that you used in there, which is such a great word. The other thing about building that trust, and also you showing vulnerability and then people being vulnerable with you, that's probably also going to open up the door for people to be more open with you about perhaps their career aspirations, right? And where they might see themselves going in the future. So that leads to kind of an even greater relationship where you can then support them and provide training, direction, mentorship, whatever, to help them grow. And then they're going to love working there even more, right? Because they've got these kind of opportunities arising. But they might have been a little bit nervous to say, oh, well, actually, one day I want your job, or one day I want it, they might not have felt that they wanted to say those types of things. It might not be your job that they're after, but, they might have kind of been holding those dreams close like we all do. Because when we say them out loud, we're like, oh, people think I'm stupid, or that's so far off. I'm not going to tell anybody about that. Who am I to think I can get there? But if you've got that trust and that vulnerability and you build that relationship, those types of conversations start to be had. And so you can support your people to really flourish in even more ways. And, isn't that a great thing for your business?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've had an excellent conversation today with Michelle on workplace well-being. It was so excellent that it ended up being over an hour long. We wanted to ensure that we conveyed everything in this episode for you guys, but we also want to make sure that it's easy to consume. So we have decided to make it a 2-part series. Join us in the next part of the series where we discuss with Michelle, how can an individual build their own building? What are the questions that you can ask yourself to understand how well you are? What are some of the work boundaries that you can set for yourself? What are some of the challenges and barriers that managers may face when they're looking at implementing well-being into their team? What is the return of investment that you can get on implementing a well-being program? Understanding what your office and what your environment already offers as part of well-being processes or procedures that can help support your people, and also how you can co-create your well-being program. Like I said, lots and lots of information still to share. So come along and join us in this next part of the series. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's episode. If you have any feedback or would like us to deep dive on a specific skill, please email us at hello@manageriq.com. Thanks very much. Have a good day.